So during the time of the Second Temple, you do have the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and there's a separate group called the Essenes. What happens after the temple is destroyed, for the most part, the Sadducees and the Essenes die out. And what's left is the Pharisees. So all Jews today would be descended from the Pharisees. So the Karaites, so what happens is, in the, I'm going to say it's the 8th century, there's once again a split. Okay? So you have the Judaism splits into two, and one is called the Rabbinites. And those are the ones, they're called Rabbinites because they accept the teachings of the rabbis. They accept the Talmud, which is a huge book of all the teachings of Judaism. The Karaites say, we don't accept the Talmud, right? We just accept the Torah, but not the Talmud. And for a time, these groups are both fairly large. But eventually, the Karaites become smaller and smaller and smaller and almost disappear. And today, there are probably about 10,000 of them left, primarily in Israel. So that's the Karaites. Okay, so that's another split. Not so much of a split, because the Karaites and the Rabbinites were really entirely separate. The Hasidim don't say we're separating ourselves. They just say we're have some additional beliefs. So they add on a few additional beliefs, and a lot of it has to do with joy, a lot of joy, worshiping with like dancing and singing and, you know, stuff you would have, other Jews would do that too, but they felt you need to do more of that. And also they believed that the best way to connect to God is through their rabbi. And so each one of these groups of Hasidim that still exist today, right, because it starts in the 18th century, but all these groups that still exist today, they each have their own rabbi. So that's the Hasidim. So if you asked a Jew from 500 years ago if they're Orthodox, they wouldn't know what you're talking about. The term didn't exist. That term is in reaction to things that happened much later. So around I would say the end of the 18th century, beginning of the 19th century, there starts to be a movement of Jews that call themselves Reform, and they believe, so unlike the traditional view that, I said, God wrote the Torah, right? God said the Torah word for word to Moses, and Moses wrote it down. The Reform are saying, well, no, it was written by human beings, and it's very important, but it's not written by God. So we can do things differently. We can change things because it's, you know, it's a new time. And so you have the Reform. Then you have, largely in the United States, a group called Conservative, that they don't want to go as far as a Reform. So they're like, yeah, sure, we agree it probably wasn't written by God, but we still want to do most of the traditions. And then entirely separately from that, you have other Jews who essentially become secular. And they say, well, you know, we're Jewish, but we're not religious at all.